Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, and iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so happy that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Today, we are speaking to June Small. She is talking about one of my favorite subjects of all, elephants, and her book, She Leads, The Elephant Matriarch. Before we begin, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Designed to Shine by Joy Research. This is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. It's a fantastic book. Open any page of Designed to Shine for a rhyme with art for your heart. Topics will lead you and your loved ones into fun, laughter, and joy, and right onto the dance floor. You'll receive ideas to pay attention in new ways, reminders about kindness, and so much more in this alphabetical treasure. This is a book. This is a guide. This is a gentle teacher all at once. Designed to Shine by Joy Reeser. It's a book for you. It's a book for your child. It's a book for your inner child. And it's all about loving who we are and remembering that we are designed to shine in the world. Designed to Shine by our friend Joy Reeser. A Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Joining us on the line right now from Northern Virginia, one of my favorite parts of the world. And we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things in the world. The name of this beautiful picture book is She Leads, The Elephant Matriarch. Please welcome to the show, June Smalls. June, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm really excited. We are in the early stages of the great quarantine of 2020. And I know that you can already see it on social media, that the parents are, they've homeschooled their kids for about 90 minutes and they're about ready to throw in the towel and vote next time to pay teachers $1 million a week, which is what they're worth. But if the quarantine is still going as you're listening to this, and even if it's not, I know you're looking for a great book to read with your kids. And if you love elephants, this, I think, would be something that you want to check out. Tell us about the story, please, June.
So She Leads is a lyrical story following the elephant matriarch as she guides and teaches and protects her family unit. And the interesting thing about elephants is that the adult males do not live with them. They are led entirely by a female, usually the eldest of the group, and they are almost always all related.
Fascinating. I think one of the things that people may be fascinated with and may be surprised is that elephants really do have this strong family connection.
Yes, and elephants are a lot like humans in a way that they aren't born with all of the things that they need to know to survive. They actually teach the young ones what they need to know, like where the water is, where the food is, what's dangerous, what's not. They aren't just born with an internal compass that says, oh, water's over there.
Yeah, and that's so rare and unusual in the animal kingdom because, as we know, so many animals, they kind of come into the world, and a lot of them have to fend for themselves right from the start.
Yep, and elephants are completely dependent on their parents or on the mother for roughly 2 years, I believe. Wow. And without them, they're orphans. Their odds of surviving are much, much smaller.
Mm. What was it that led you or inspired you to write about elephants?
I'd actually started researching them for a chapter book series I was working on, and so I researched them for months. I went down to a zoo where I could speak with an elephant curator and learn more about them. I got to meet a beautiful elephant and touch her rough skin, but I hadn't done anything with it. I still haven't even written that chapter book. But then my agent on International Women's Day tweeted at me, you know, a picture with, you know, just elephants. And she said, hey, if you want to write about this, I'd be a happy agent. And I was like, I can do this. I have this information. And then I was like, well, how do I write about elephants? And I was like, well, what did they do? Oh, she leads them around and, you know, she's the one who is in charge. And once I thought of she leads, the rest was cake.
Isn't that wonderful when you're working on an idea and you're working so hard, and then all of a sudden it's just you just kind of get up to the top of the hill, and then it's all downhill after that.
All downhill, like, you know, water down a waterfall. It was just the easiest thing I've ever written. But it, you know, again, I had already done so much research on the front end. I didn't have to keep stopping to research to make sure I was on the right path while writing it.
That's an important point to make, because a lot of times folks think they hear this and, oh, the story just kind of came out and I was able to write it in a day or a couple of days, and people might sit back and go, oh, that's, being a writer is really easy. And they forget the fact that you were actually, you know, you were going up that hill for a long time.
I was, and I had done a lot of research, again, for a much longer formatted book on males and females. I was actually looking more at the Indian elephants, but once I started working on this, African elephants are really the way I wanted to lean, especially with how far they travel for water. But yeah, it's amazing how all of that work made this easy.
What are some of the things that we're going to learn about elephants, in addition to the fact that they have these really strong family bonds, when we read She Leads?
Well, the story has a short lyrical story that the reader can, you know, breeze through during bedtime reads. Or there are nonfiction elements on each spread, so you can dive in a little deeper with each tidbit. So you'll see about how the elephants protect the young. While these are giant and gentle creatures, they will, you know, charge and stand strong against any threat that might come near them or their family unit. They, like I said before, they have to teach their young. You know, the babies, they can't even use their trunk when they're born. They're just like a newborn human whose hands are just grasping at anything, but not really dexterous yet. Dexterous. I cannot say that word. They don't have
right
the dexterity yet.
This is great. You know, I guess that would be a great kind of way for a parent or a caregiver to talk to a child about how much they've grown. And, you know, just sit down with the child and go, yeah, this elephant's kind of like you when you were born. You couldn't do this and you couldn't do that, but you've grown so much, and it's been so wonderful watching you grow and learn.
Yes, and that we can see sometimes kids don't want to learn. Learning is boring, but every creature learns, and they have to learn a lot when they're young. So yes, that'd be a great way for children to relate to these adorable elephants.
Were you what in your research? What was the most surprising thing that you discovered?
Surprising. I think how many other animals will actually they depend on the elephants for survival. So during the dry season, when the elephants will actually use their tusks and their feet, and they'll dig up these dry beds to get to the water underneath. Birds follow these family units, and even certain monkeys, I think it was baboons, will hang out and wait for the elephants to dig up the water, get their fill, and then they come in and they get the advantage of knowing that these elephants are going to get them water. And then these monkeys or the birds will sound alarms if danger's near, and they help the elephants in return. So I was shocked that such a large creature has these symbiotic relationships with other creatures around them.
Wow, that's really fascinating. I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah, neither did I. I was surprised.
And I've actually experienced a monkey giving that warning cry. We were down in Panama in the rainforest, and there was a howler monkey up in the trees above our heads, and he got startled, and he or she let the rest of the world know there was something dangerous coming, and it terrified me.
Well, but now that one monkey let everybody know, and now every creature around says, ooh, I'm going to avoid whatever this potential new strange danger, whatever it might be. They work together.
How easy is it for you to take this science because you're doing scientific research, and take this information and turn it into a fun lyrical story?
I'd say it's fairly easy for me, and I don't shy away from the truth. Nature is nature. Mm-hmm. Animals behave a certain way. Sometimes creatures have to, or, they die, and that's part of the circle of life. And I don't shy away from that there is death in this book. But it's beautiful and it's amazing. So I just have to find those amazing and beautiful tidbits and just share them. I didn't have to try to make this a girl power book. Everyone reading it is like, wow, this is really going to show girls that they can be leaders. And that was never my original intention. I was just saying, hey, look at this amazing creature. And all I have to do is filter out the fluff and put it in a book. So, I mean, it sounds easier said than done, takes lots of revisions, but as long as you're not afraid of the truth of nature and, you don't get squeamish about some of it, because, a lot of the research leads you to poop. All the animals you research, you will learn about poop.
And for a lot of kids, this former kid, that's the best part.
Well, I left poop out of this book, but you still come across it in every article that you're reading. One of the things that I was most amazed at one performance of a circus, I remember being in the arena, and all of these different performers were doing amazing things, and then the elephant came out, and the thing in the circus that got the very biggest reaction was when the elephant relieved herself. And the whole arena started laughing, and I'm like, how would I feel if I was flying on that flying trapeze and that got a bigger pop than me? But it's, you go on a horseback ride, every kid's gonna giggle when the animal goes potty. Anywhere you go, poop is funny. It is.
It is. And, I think, I know my mom used to be, it drove my mother crazy, and I think it drove my wife crazy, when my son was into all the kind of poop humor and everything. But actually, there's no way you can change that. I think it's, as parents, we should probably embrace it, because, you can shift it away from the kind of gross poop talk to, hey, this is something we all do, and this is what's going on when they do that.
Yeah, and with the animal world, there's so much that we can learn from it. Mm-hmm. So my poor child, has grown up with me being an animal nerd and being sciencey. So, when you find scat, and you can say, what can we learn from this? Or you find, an owl pellet that they've coughed up, and you can say, oh, look, we can figure out what they ate and, where they are. So there are nice, non-giggly ways to look at poop, but in the end, most kids are still going to giggle.
There you go. Absolutely. One of the things you were talking about, not shying away from death, and I think that's a good thing, because it is a fact of life, and it's loss is a fact of every kid's life. Not every kid experiences the loss of a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, but they experience the loss of a friendship. One friend moves from town to town, and even when you go from kindergarten to first grade, your best friend at the end of kindergarten might not be your best friend in the beginning of first grade. And so kids experience loss, and I think it's important that we find comfortable ways to talk to our kids about it before they're actually going through it.
Absolutely, and books are a nice, safe way to sit down and discuss, something that's new coming in, a new baby, a new, when the elephant is born, or, new children in school and class with you, or loss. Like you said, if it's, the loss of your friends for the summertime, even if it's just during the school year, and or the loss, through death where it's forever. The books, when they're sitting there safely with a caregiver, with a parent, with a teacher, they can ask questions and digest it without the pressure of the actual event.
Yes, and they can digest it and not have to pop up a pellet that can be examined. And
yes.
One of the things that I was fascinated with in the notes that you sent over is, since we're talking about losses, that elephants sometimes will adopt orphans.
Yes, especially within that family unit, whether it's a predator, whether it's a poacher, which is the biggest issue with elephants because, they don't have too many things that can hunt them unless they're ill, injured, or babies. Or whether it's just old age and, illness and disease. But if that happens, like I said before, if a baby's under the age of 2, it's really difficult for them to survive without their mother and their mother's milk. But if they're 2-ish or older, another female in the group will take it under their wing. They're definitely, elephants are very much a village raises a child. They all will protect. They all will go get a baby that's been stuck in the mud, and they'll reach down and nudge and shove and pull. They work together to protect. They'll circle around if there's anything dangerous around, a lion, an alligator, a poacher, and they all want to do what needs to be done to protect that young.
That's beautiful. I love that image of the group, the village coming together to protect each other, to protect a vulnerable baby in the group.
Yeah, if there is a large predator or something around, all the young will be shoved to the center.
That's fascinating. What was it that you referred to yourself as an animal nerd? What was it that, brought the nerd out in you?
Oh, I've always been this animal nerd. I lived in a really old house that one of the rooms had wallpaper when we moved in that was a jungle scene, and me being the youngest, I just got it by default. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I had lions and hippopotamus and colorful birds. I was that child who would just run out in the morning and hang out in the woods and hang out with my dogs and rescue birds and snakes and bunnies. My mother was supportive. We'd bring home a bunny with an injured leg. It got caught on barbed wire. We'd keep it around for a week or two to make sure it healed. I've just always been that animal nerd, and I will still to this day stop in the road, move a turtle, move a snake. About a year ago, I got a hawk off the side of the road and got it to a rehabilitation center. That was scary because they can bite through your fingers. But he knocked himself for a loop on a guardrail, so
okay.
He was pretty much out of it, but yeah, I'm just that animal nerd.
That's good. Well, I'm glad he didn't come out of it when he was in your vehicle.
We were very smart and safe. A police officer let us use the back of his cruiser. We had a huge blanket, and we waited for the professionals.
Very good, very good.
I just made sure he didn't get hit by a car.
One of the things we love talking to authors that write books that inspire, like She Leads, that inspire kids, especially young girls, to understand that women can be leaders, that little girls can grow up to be leaders. We also love speaking to authors that are writing books that are encouraging kids, especially girls, to explore the STEM fields, and we hear so much that there's a lack of women in the different STEM fields. But with animals, it's I may be wrong, but it just seems to me that's different. That seems to be an area where there have been a lot of women for a lot of time studying veterinary sciences and zoology and taking care of animals.
Well, one, I think it's always been acceptable for a female to be a caretaker. So even, throughout history, it's just a woman's nature. We could bring the science into it, but I think it's always been one of those acceptable roles. But also the animals don't care. The animals don't care if we're a man or a woman or a 6-year-old, who's just interested. The animal will behave the way the animal behaves. But with this book, even at the very end, it talks about the baby that's being born, and it says, open your eyes, princess, because one day you are going to lead. And not word for word, but it reminds us that every great leader starts off a tiny baby, and every tiny baby has great potential.
I love that. That's such a powerful message for our kids to hear.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, June, tell everybody where we can go online to find out more about you and find out more about the books that you've written.
Well, my website is junesmalls.com. I'm pretty active on Twitter. And She Leads is going to be available. It got pushed back to May 26th thanks to a lot of this coronavirus things going on with travel and production. But I've got She Leads, Odd Animal ABCs, which is a humorous alphabet book, but every new odd animal that's introduced is a real living animal. So if you want to learn about the aye-aye and the numbat and the okapi, they're all in there.
I had a guest on, just interviewed, the other day, and she told me she writes about cryptozoology, and she was telling how, the okapi was a cryptic, that no one really believed that there was this animal out there that looked like a giraffe and a zebra combined. And so immediately after I finished speaking to her, I went online and I searched it, and I said, "Oh, I've seen one of those one time."
Yeah. Where did I just see one? The Maryland Zoo had one.
Yes.
But yeah, people look at it and they're like, that looks like a mix and match, or a child drew it. It doesn't look real.
Exactly. Yeah.
But doing that research back, there's a number of animals that people did not believe existed. People did not believe gorillas existed. They said there's no way that something that practically looks like a man and that can walk on its hind legs or walk on its feet, a giant ape, they're like, no, that doesn't exist. So scientists had to go in and bring back physical specimens. And the Komodo dragon, the same thing. They were like, there's no way there's a giant lizard with acid spit. And they brought back specimens and said, look, this is real. I didn't make it up. So you see that a lot throughout history.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited. I know that my kids, when they were growing up, they loved animals. They loved elephants. And if you're listening out there and you have little ones, I have a feeling that your kids love and are fascinated by animals too. And you definitely want to check out June's website. And you definitely want to check out She Leads, the Elephant Matriarch, coming from our friends at Familius. We've been speaking with the author, June Smalls. June, thanks so much for being part of the show.
No, thanks again for having me. It's a pleasure.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Stephanie William Peterson, and she'll be telling us all about Grace's Ghost. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you know an author of a great children's book, please let them know that we would love to have them as a guest on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives authors a chance to tell thousands of people about their fantastic book. All they need to do is go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button that you can find at the bottom of the page. Ask them to tell us all about their book. We'll let them know the next easy steps. It's really easy right now for me to thank the people who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our friend June Smalls. Be sure to check out She Leads, another great book from our friends at Familius. Also want to thank my incredible team. I want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my awesome author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank you. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful, loving parent, teacher, caregiver, protector, healthcare worker, supporter. You're making the world a better place with all of that love that you're showing to your kid. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.